Hello, this is Not God, and welcome to another Shabbat lesson for January 4th, 2020. My lesson today is from the Yalak Study Notes Torah Commentary, and the lesson is titled Baa Dead Sheep. Think with me. If you were living in Old Testament times as an ancient Israelite, wearing older clothing, like they did back then. Maybe you had like a donkey and cart moving around doing your stuff. Would you go with your donkey and cart, moving around the town or countryside, beating and collecting every animal you came across? Like beating until you maimed them or killed them, throwing them in your cart as you walked around the town or countryside. That would seem cruel and anti-God, especially seeing that you are an Israelite. That would not be becoming of an Israelite. Just moving around with a club or a piece of board and just beating them senseless, throwing them in your cart. So how come you could kill them on high holy days? God plays with little lambs. He puts air in their nostrils and pulls it back out. He opens their eyes in the morning and closes them when they sleep. He runs with them like other animals. God plays with the animals. Remember, the Bible even lets us know that the cattle on the hill are His. Isaiah chapter 64, verse 1-4. It reads, "O that thou wouldest rent the heavens, that thou wouldest come down, that the mountains might flow down at thy presence." What I see there is playing. See, the first time I read this, I thought of mighty judgment from God, and maybe there'll be some judgment in there, depending on how you're reading it and what's about to happen and so on. But one of the problems I found with the scriptures is that we have been cultured in our mind so much to think of only judgment and destruction and so on for a long time. Now, if we're coming up on the end days now, the last days, and you've got judgment in your mind, maybe I can understand that. But why 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, would the Israelite have been thinking like this, or somebody who's not an Israelite who heard of the word of the Lord be thinking of all this destruction and so on when earth was far away from the last days? It's because we have been taught, cultured in our mind to think destruction no matter what point on earth you are at. Earth was supposedly new in the time of Enoch, but look at all the destruction Enoch was talking about. And people had to just live thinking and feeling that destruction for thousands of years. And you wonder why there's so much killing and destruction on earth. Because the prophecies were written to change us internally, to make us desire war and hatred. It's not fallen angels who came down to teach war. It's somebody who was down here who taught us to desire war, to learn war, to practice war. So that thou wouldest come down, that the mountains might flow down at thy presence. See the playing in the scriptures right there? Flowing down, because he's playing, right? He's changing. Look at the language as if he's changing the structure of that which is the mountains and so on. It's just flowing down with his presence, or like his presence is flowing down, skating down it, like when a child is on a skateboard and they're flowing down there. Whatever the thing you call it is that they're skating down. So his presence is flowing down the mountain. As when the melting fire burneth the fire, causing the waters to boil. The fire causeth the waters to boil. See, again, the plain there's making the waters to boil, changing the way it's operating, its state, to make thy name known to thy adversaries, that the nations may tremble at thy presence. See, maybe the nations who are wicked to Israel might feel it that way, but for Israel, they are enjoying the presence of the Most High. That's why they could rejoice when he delivered them, because it wasn't something he was doing to them to bring destruction. It was something their enemies were getting. But even after they've been delivered, they're still living with war in their mind. Is that really deliverance? When thou didst terrible things which we looked not for, thou camest down, the mountains flowed down at thy presence. For since the beginning of the world, men have not heard nor perceived by the ear, neither hath the eye seen, O God, beside thee, what he hath prepared for him that waiteth for him. Is he going to prepare something terrible? No, something wonderful. That's going to be the playfulness in life, or the blessing in life. Run over to the next chapter, Isaiah 65 and verse 1. Look at some hide and seek going on here. I am sought of them that asked not for me. I am found of them that sought me not. I said, behold me, unto a nation that was not called by my name. And that's a hide and seek there. It's like God is playing with man. You don't live according to the book. You don't live the way he wants, so he goes away, then you got to seek for him again. You find him by your actions as he's watching you secretly, so he comes back, reveals himself, then you slip up, then he goes away again. And even when you don't slip up, he still kind of goes away, and you're searching for him some more. Like Job says about his perception, perceiving something to the left or the right, but I cannot quite find him. It's like this hide and seek stuff, God playing with his creation. Isaiah 65, so we go down to verse 10. And Sharon shall be a fold of flocks, and the valley of Achor, a place for the herds to lie down in, for my people that have sought me. See the playfulness in the text again? They're in the valley, and it's a place for them to lie down, the herds to lie down. Restfulness, playing. They lay down and they get up, they run again and play in the presence of the Most High is flowing again. And they're all playing. They're enjoying the creation. And the Creator is enjoying also his creation, enjoying spending time with them. So both Creator and creation is enjoying. That's why in the Bible, when he made the trees and everything and the animals and so on, he said it was good. That goodness there was about satisfaction. He enjoyed it. And that enjoyment is also a part of the whole text that you see, but we're focusing so much on the destruction and the fighting and the war. That's why we don't move to deliverance. In fact, I've got a lesson coming up where I'm going to show you that the deliverance is not coming by war. Deliverance first comes, and then war comes after to destroy the enemies of Israel. And the prophets showed that. So the flocks, they play and run. Look at bees swarming around. Look at that. It's like they're playing, right? And the Bible does say in Isaiah again, a lion laying down with the lamb. To play means activity engaged in for enjoyment and recreation, or we can say recreation. You see, because when the animals are playing, it's like, and they're laying down with each other, getting up, running, and so on, like the Bible is saying the future is going to be. They're recreating. We always say recreation for fun and enjoyment and satisfaction, but you can also pronounce it recreation, because that's what it was like first when earth was new and you had the Garden of Eden scenario. And that was, we might just loosely call it here the first creation. Well, there's a recreation when earth flows the way it should, as the playing and the consistency in what was done at the start is recreated daily when there is peace on earth. So To play is activity engaged in for enjoyment and recreation, or recreating what the Creator started from way back then. Especially by children is this recreation done. They're recreating the joy in creation when they were brand new, when your child was just born and was an infant. They smiled at so many things, they laughed, but as they grow, they're more sad. They're reflecting the sadness in your own eyes and your face and so on. And as life becomes more serious, right, the playfulness is gone. But at first, the infant was smiling. They were amused by everything. You just swung something held by your fingers in front of their face, and they're following it with their eyes, and they're just loving it, and the big smile breaks out. They're recreating joy and laughter and pleasure so easily day by day. So good, when he said, and God made this and God made that and it was good, good is the enjoyment, the satisfaction built into creation. And when you have recreation, you are recreating that good. So you're not just recreating the physical object that he made, but you are recreating the joy, the satisfaction that was also placed in the original creation. Look at bees swarming around the honeycomb as they create honey. They go in and out of the cells repeatedly, ecstatically, in a playing manner. You see that? Excitement is in their movements. They're buzzing around, swarming around, in and out, in and out, in and out of the honeycomb, of all the cells there. They are enjoying what they are doing. Just because they are working, life doesn't have to be so serious. They are buzzing in and out. They are enjoying it because life is just beaming right there in their wings. They are playing while doing their work. The Creator made them like this. It's us as humans who are not like that. Even though we were made like that at first, there was satisfaction in Eden. Eden, if you check out the word, eventually comes to mean a place of luxury and satisfaction. The Creator made them like this. The Creator is playing with them, these bees going in and out of the cells of the honeycomb. Let's run over to Isaiah 65, verse 18 to 20. But be ye glad and rejoice forever in that which I create. Why can you rejoice forever in what he creates? Because in his creating, he put gladness in it and satisfaction. He put an Edenic spirit, might I say, in all the things he created. But then we can just go to worship this God of the Bible and slaughter the animals to sacrifice to him that he made. When he put satisfaction in the animal, an Edenic satisfaction, but we slay them before the Lord on a high holy day. So be ye glad and rejoice forever in that which I create. For behold, I create Jerusalem a rejoicing, and her people a joy. Every living thing in Jerusalem should have been rejoicing if the Most High was there. But instead, even in good times, when they said God was blessing, some of these animals were not able to rejoice in Jerusalem, the place of the Lord, where he placed his name. So they found no salvation and staying power in the place of his name because they were slaughtered. Yalak study notes, Torah commentary, Twitter, YouTube, Patreon. But he says that is what he creates. But we uncreate it with the slaughter of these creatures to worship the God that creates. Verse 19, and I will rejoice in Jerusalem and joy in my people, and the voice of weeping shall be no more heard in her, nor the voice of crying. And you know those animals would cry when they're being pulled and tied up to be slaughtered. And that's why they would slit their throats really fast with an extra sharp knife by a specially trained priest to make sure they would limit or get rid of any such crying. Because the first time people were sacrificing in ancient times, the animals were crying and yelling and screaming out. So they learned we've got to tie them up to make them not get away, and we've got to do it really fast. Because eventually, as you slaughter animals that are screaming and crying, people are going to know internally something is wrong. They might not do anything about it because they're afraid of the authorities who are doing these sacrifices. But they would be afraid and know internally in their being that something is cosmically wrong with killing these animals. So they did it real fast, a slit of the throat, super fast. Like an expert swordsman or a ninja that can just swing a sword in battle and kill the enemy fast. That's it. The Israelite high priest would slit the throat really fast to get rid of the crying. Go online and look up these animal slaughters that are still happening right now in our world, and look at the pictures that you will see of the animals, bloody and just throat hanging off and so on. And look at the people surrounding. Does that look like chaos? And look at the people surrounding. Does that look like chaos when nothing good was happening and there was chaos on earth, and then God said, let there be, and he started to clear things up? Does that picture of all the animals and being slaughtered and the people around them in modern times online look like chaos is happening, or does this look like an ancient Israelite high priest would be at peace before God slaughtering animals like this in that setting?
Look at the pictures.
Look at the pictures. I saw these pictures 100 videos ago in the New Testament is Fake series. I never posted them up online in my videos. Maybe one day I will, but I never did, because I did not want to show such gruesome scenes, even though it would help to get the point across some more. So what I resorted to was just simply teaching the lessons as best as I could, as clear as I could, to give you the mental pictures. But you can look up the real pictures for yourself online of animal slaughter going on in modern times, and your Hebrew Israelite understanding is that we were doing this to please God 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, even in the time of Moses 3,500 years ago, and Moses was loving this. So verse 20 from Isaiah 65, there shall be no more thence an infant of days. See that? Because verse 19 ended with there shall be no more, weeping will not be heard anymore in her, nor the voice of crying. And the weeping and the voice of crying, when you look at sacrifices in ancient times, although sacrifices still go on today, you just don't hear about it commonly. But in those times when people had to give up their children or have their animals slaughtered, would there be the voice of crying and so on? Yeah, people would laugh and shout and rejoice afterwards when the animal was already slaughtered, because they were cultured in their mind to think that their God was receiving this and now they would be blessed. But no one would just normally enjoy that if they were not taught that. So the voice of crying will go away, because killing, murder, slaughter, sacrifice will be something that the earth will frown on one day when the true Creator clears up what's going on earth in the future. So there shall be no more thence an infant of days, nor an old man that hath not filled his days, for the child shall die 100 years old. Again, showing that death should be put off. Death should be a long time stuff, if it's going to happen to you. Because originally it's showing that people were not supposed to die, it seems. Only if you eat this, you're going to die. 100 years old, but the sinner being 100 years old shall be accursed. Verse 25, the wolf and the lamb shall feed together, and the lion shall eat straw like the bullock. So wolf and the lamb, so different kinds will get along. And you should also understand that the different kinds of humans or people and animals in the animal kingdom will get along, and one will not be slaughtering the other even for worship. Both will thrive on the earth, find peace on the earth. Does that sound like proper, better Israelite Torah teaching? Does that sound like the world you would like to live in? Would you like to go to Mars? That doesn't exist, but just imagine here. Would you like to go to Mars and bring your family, trying to escape war on Earth? And when you look through your binoculars as you get closer to Mars in your spaceship, you realize that the same slaughter and murder and fighting and bombing and missiles and nuclear weapons are there as well, and people are scurrying, running around, hiding in caves and looking for a place to go to, hiding in bunkers and so on. And there is no difference there than the earth that you just left. Would that make your heart drop? But would there be joy and sweetness in your mind when you look through your binoculars and you see a lot of green grass and trees and fruits on the trees and so on, and people just laughing and running around, and there are lions and great animals being around smaller animals and around infants and people in parks and forest areas and so on, just living together, and they look everybody happy and joyful running around, and there is just peace right there with the sunshine and everything. Wouldn't you love to hurry up and get to that place called Mars when you see that? Yes, because you know no killing and chaos is happening there. But the Bible paints to you in the Torah that we should be slaughtering and killing not just the animals, but killing people on earth as well. See, now it gets you to think. So I'm glad you're listening to the Yalak Study Notes Torah commentary, so you can learn an alternative about the Bible, about the doctrines that you have been taught. So the wolf and the lamb shall feed together, and the lion shall eat straw like the bullock, and dust shall be the serpent's meat. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, saith the Lord. Just like on Mars they weren't hurting and so on and destroying. In all my holy mountain they shall not hurt or destroy. In Jerusalem 3,000 years ago, were they hurting and destroying in the holy mountain Jerusalem? When they were hurting and destroying the animals to worship God? Is that hurting and destroying in Jerusalem? But you say and teach people that the same God was commanding his people in Jerusalem, his holy mountain, to kill these animals. Think about it again. So God plays with all these creatures, and they're laying down together, and he's going in and out from between them and so on. And all the people of the land, he's going in and out. He's enjoying his creation. It is good when he looks at all these different animals laying down together and they're not hurting each other. God plays with all these creatures and claims they are his. The cattle on 1,000 hills are his. But the scriptures were obviously corrupted, or were created corrupted in the first place, as men wrote that God instructed us to kill his creatures that teach wisdom on the earth. You know, the ancient Egyptians would study the animals to learn about the mystery of creation from them. But Israel of the Bible, of the Torah, left Egypt, went over the Red Sea, and sacrificed the same mysterious animals. They sacrificed them under Moses, after they left behind the Egyptians who were studying these animals. Now we know Egypt got into some stuff of their own that was not right, but that's because corruption was setting in. Who will do the work, even in modern times, to bring earth back to what it should be? Will you play your part in that? Or will you continue to teach deception so that you and the rest of us can continue to live in a world where we are running from destruction, hiding from destruction? Isaiah chapter 66, verse 3 and 4. He that killeth an ox is as if he slew a man. He that sacrificeth a lamb as if he cut off a dog's neck. So it's letting you know to kill one kind is like you have killed something else, probably even greater. He's trying to say to you, you shouldn't be killing, period. Remember, death was a curse from the start in Genesis. If you eat this thing, you will die. Death itself was a curse. But also, when Cain slew Abel, that was also a curse. So there's some negativity there. If he slew a man, it's no different in end times now or in Bible times, in Israelite times rather, like it was at the start when Cain slew Abel. It's as if he slew a man. He that sacrificeth a lamb as if he cut off a dog's neck. But you should not be sacrificing dogs. So what he's saying is, if you slay a lamb as an Israelite high priest for the nation of Israel, it's as if you slew a dog or cut off a dog's neck to offer unto me. To offer a lamb unto me as an Israelite high priest of the Levitical priesthood, to slay that lamb to offer to me as a priest of the Most High God. It's like you were slaying a dog to offer a dog unto me. In other words, he's saying, I don't receive the dog. It's the same way I don't receive the lamb sacrifice. So what's Christ coming as a lamb sacrifice for? And why was Israel offering lamb sacrifices all that time in the time of Moses and Solomon and all them? When the Most High was looking at all this lamb sacrifice as if it was a dog sacrifice. We have been taught wrong. You are listening to the Yalak Emet channel, Rethinking the Torah, and this is the Yalak Study Notes Torah Commentary, Twitter, YouTube, Patreon. So, he that slew a man, he that sacrificeth a lamb as if he cut off a dog's neck, he that offereth an oblation as if he offered swine's blood. See, all these sacrifices of Israel that they were taught back then were true and good and right, was as if they were killing dogs to sacrifice and as if they were offering oblations of swine's blood unto the Lord on the high holy day, even the day of atonement. All this killing of the lambs and so on was as if on the Day of Atonement they were offering swine's blood or killing swines to offer unto the Lord. That is what the scripture is saying. But you are not taught to read it for yourself. You are taught to accept what you are taught. So swine's blood, he that burneth incense as if he blessed an idol, yea, they have chosen their own ways. You see that? It was their own ways that they chose. And today, still, in your churches and Israelite camps, you are taught to choose idolatry. And you are taught to choose your own way, which is the way of your teachers. But some of us broke out of it and have returned to teach you what they found out. So they have chosen their own ways, and their soul delighteth in their abominations. And you go and you rent the hotel ballroom to have your high holiday celebrations and your week-long convocations at your church and conferences and so on, because you are delighting in your abominations, the abominations of your own ways and practices and your own interpretations of the Bible that the Creator could not possibly have given. When he taught man his teaching in the Garden of Eden, no book was used. Adam never flipped to page 35 in the book to remember what God taught him. He did not use a book, and Eve did not use a book either. There was no book in Eden. I will also choose their delusions and will bring their fears upon them. Because when I called, none did answer. And every time you heard teachings like this over the years, you ignored it and chose to follow your delusions. So he says, because of that, I will bring fears upon them. And are you continuing to live in fear? Look how long you said you have learned this stuff, but your people have still not been properly delivered from their slavery. Because your delusions that you call your right religion, that you upgrade to calling not a religion, but your Torah from God, it has become a fear unto you. Your teachings have locked you into fears because they are not the teachings of the Creator. So I will bring fears upon them as they run around wondering what the future will be. Will we ever be free? I will bring fears upon them because when I called and taught them and showed them myself from other teachers, but also mainly showed them from their own thoughts in their mind that this or that is wrong, they ignored it and said, I will still go to the next Sabbath meeting tomorrow to learn this from teachers who have been teaching me something that is wrong. Because when I called, none did answer. When I spake, they did not hear, but they heard their teachers though. But they did evil before mine eyes, and chose that in which I delighted not. They delight in their own things and that of their teachers, but delighted not in the word of the Lord that came from their own heart. Adam heard a word inside of him. He heard the word moving through the garden. And he heard a word inside of him, because if you cannot see God, he must have heard the communication happening inside of him. But we have been taught to hear somebody else. And the truth is, if you begin to listen to what's going on inside of you, you would not even count my word as valuable as the word you hear inside of you. And if you can get to that point, I would be more happy than if you only heard my teaching. They chose that in which I delighted not. Isaiah 65 verse 11. But ye are they that forsake the Lord, that forget my holy mountain, that prepare a table for that troop, and that furnish the drink offering unto that number. You're going your own way, furnishing a table to do sacrifices and teachings, where someone sits before you and teaches the way they stand before the table or the altar to sacrifice unto idolatrous beings, idolatrous creations in the mind. And they teach you these things because you have forsaken the Lord and forgotten the mountain of truth. So they learned through religious conditioning to sacrifice before Moses 3,500 years ago, to sacrifice before Aaron, to sacrifice with the help of Solomon in the Kidron Valley. And when you do that, you create a rift in creation as you are slaughtering the animals that the Most High is playing with his life flowing in and around them. You create a rift in creation, and because of this, you are visited in your life, generation after generation, with prolonged disappointment and captivity, as your life fails and that of your nation. Baa, dead sheep, on the altar of the Lord I have left you no life.